right, so we have a special guest. It's an exclusive. We have Frank White with us. Frank, of course, the former Royals legend. He's still a Royals legend, and former Jackson County executive. And we're going to ask Frank things that hopefully you want to ask Frank. You've known Frank for a long time. I don't have a personal relationship with Frank because you wrote his book, but we're going to get into all of that. So, Frank White, our special guest on the show today.
Today's show is going to be so very special. My partner in crime, Tony Restivo, and I think a few baseball fans might know that guy right there as I poke Tony in the eye.
Few anybody fans, few anybody in this town knows. You're probably the most recognizable face in Kansas City.
I know, good or bad, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You said that, I didn't. Frank White, everybody.
White,
it's a pleasure having you here, brother, really.
You know, Frank, we've known each other 40 years.
I know.
It's crazy.
Every time I think about 1980, after we clinched the playoffs with the Yankees, I remember Bill, my first call.
From a payphone in Crown Center.
Yeah, I said, man, this is pretty awesome.
And I've been watching you since 1974, maybe. I remember when Cookie Rojas first got here, and I remember you, if I'm not mistaken, unless I'm dreaming, you were playing shortstop a lot of the time. And then you took over for Cookie, but that would have been, what, 74, 75?
Well, it was 73 is when I came up originally.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just
close.
got what they call a cup of coffee.
Yeah, right.
And then 74 was my first full year out of spring training.
Yeah, I think that was about right.
Yeah, I was a shortstop. I was a shortstop when I came out of the academy. I came through the minor leagues as a shortstop. And when I got to the big leagues, then I kind of looked around and I saw Freddie was a lot younger than Cookie, and they kind of hinted that Cookie might be retiring in a couple of years. So I decided I was going to learn how to play second base. So that winter I went to Venezuela and went back to Venezuela the next winter, and the next winter I went to Puerto Rico, and then when Cookie retired after the 76th season, then I moved in to play second base every day.
Now, you grew up here. You're a Kansas City guy.
Since second grade. Mm-hmm.
Since second grade. So you played ball as a kid in the little leagues around Kansas City, and then you mentioned the academy. So the Royals had this baseball academy. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, when Ewing Kauffman first bought the Royals after the A's left for Oakland, the scouting system wasn't really that sophisticated, and so he wanted another way to find players, and so he came with the idea that he could take players to Florida, put us in this school, and he hold trial camps around the United States, and you come up with like 50 athletes to go to this school. And you didn't have to have a baseball background, you just have to be a good athlete. And then they would bring people in to teach you certain aspects of the game. And so it's kind of interesting that we went to Sarasota, Florida. We were on a 260-acre plot of land, nothing but sand and palmetto bushes and rattlesnakes and things like that. And so they built this complex, five fields, one main game field, and we had a 50-room dormitory. We had our own cafeteria, and we were self-contained. And so it was baseball 6 days a week. We got to go to town, Wednesday night for a little bit, then Friday night. But
how long did that last?
For me, it lasted about 18 months. It ran the college schedule. We went down. I signed in June of '70, and in August I went to Florida, and like I said, we ran the same schedule as the colleges. We played area colleges and universities, and the full day was like get up at 6. Had to eat breakfast. Didn't eat breakfast, was $10 fine. And then we got on a bus. We went to Manatee Junior College. We stayed there till noon. Then we came back, had lunch. Then we went out on the field. So we were either practicing or playing a scrimmage game or playing a college or university that came down from the north. But it was fundamentals. And they brought in Amos Otis came in, and Cookie Rojas and Mayberry, and they just teaching different aspects of the game. And then that's where they brought in Ted Williams. And Ted Williams, Jim Lemon. I mean, it was mainly a Washington Senator staff that we had, a major league staff. And so they just kept bringing in people with different ideas, and we just were like guinea pigs. We just practice and practice and practice, and it really worked out really well because when I went to the academy, I played like 35 games in the summer. I didn't play high school baseball, and
Because Lincoln didn't have high
we didn't
school.
have high school baseball.
Yeah.
And so then I knew I was a good athlete, but the thing that I was missing was the basic fundamentals. And when you're in a contained environment and you're doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over, you get good at it. And so once I learned the fundamentals of the game, then the game became easy. So when I think about it, I was a month from turning 20 when I went into the academy, and at 23 I was in the major leagues. And not as a heralded, can't watch to see this rookie play, can't wait to see this rookie play. It wasn't like that. It was more fundamentally I could play third, short, and second.
Right.
And so Jack McKeon was the manager when I came up. So he brought me up as a utility guy. So I played all those positions from 73 to 76. And then when Cookie retired, I just became a full-time second baseman at that point.
And they called them graduates. So it was you, UL Washington, and Ron Washington, right? Did Ron Washington get out of that? Through that academy?
Well, Ron and I were in the same class.
Okay.
And he was our catcher, and I played shortstop. And UL was like in the fourth class.
Okay.
And so it was kind of interesting with UL. UL and I became the first all-black double play combination in the history of the American League.
Really?
You know, second base, shortstop, and it hasn't been. I don't think we've had that situation since then either.
I would have never known.
So it's just funny how we had about 14 players who went through the 4 years of the academy that played in the major leagues.
So it didn't take long, though. I mean, you got up, and then 76 comes up. I mean, I remember those years like it was yesterday, going, 76, 7, and 8, where woulda, coulda, shoulda. But I mean, you guys were probably the favorites to win those. I mean, you could have won those World Series every year, but baseball arrived in Kansas City. I mean, you were right in the middle of it.
Well, baseball was the game.
Yeah.
It was the game back then.
It was.
The thing that we still had a small market, and Mr. Kaufman, he paid a little bit more to keep us competitive. I don't think we ever got to the point where we were dominant, where we had the right closer and the right people in the bullpen to get us over that hump. He knew that we were good enough to win the West. And back then, it was East-West, 5-game playoff, World Series.
Right.
And so if you can win your division, then it's a crapshoot.
Right.
If you plan well, you can win 3 out of 5 and be in the World Series at that point. So we just wanted to stay competitive.
I've got to take you back to the academy. Frank and I worked together on his autobiography in 2012, and the stories that we have in there, I treasure every one of them. But, Yankee Stadium is called the house that Ruth built. Rose Stadium could have been called the house that Mr. Frank White built because he worked on the concrete crew, man. I mean, tell us. I love that story.
Well, back then we weren't making much money at all in the minor leagues, and you made just enough to survive from April to the end of August. But then you had to survive again from the end of August to next April when spring training started. So we weren't allowed to. We're at that point I wasn't playing winter ball, but then again I had a wife and a kid, and I said, well, I need to find some work. So the first year I couldn't find work, and so I ended up filing unemployment for that time off. And so the next winter that came by, then Mr. Kaufman had his chauffeur take me down to the Union Hall, and I got a union card, and I worked on the stadium from September of '72 until April of '73, and then in June of '73 I got called to the big leagues. So
Wow.
it was amazing. I mean, I seal floors and chip cement off columns and carried stuff to people that knew what they were doing, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, so it was a fun winter. I made more money in that winter than I made 2 years of minor leagues.
Well, when we talked about you lived in Kansas City since the second grade, but you grew up as a real young man, Greenville, Mississippi, and one of my favorite stories from that is a lot of the skills, a lot of the great technical aspects of fielding, taking the ball out of the glove in great fashion was from picking cotton?
Well, my dad told me that. But
Yeah, good. Thanks for bringing that up, Bill.
It wasn't the greatest experience in the world.
No, I bet.
Especially when you just going down in the summer for summer school. I mean, just get out of the city to stay out of trouble. But yeah, picking cotton, there's an art to it, and the cotton bolls are real sharp, and so you had to go in like this, and you had to pick them out like this all the time. So when I started playing baseball, it just came. It was like a natural thing that for me to learn how to field that way. And then I had a real good fielding instructor in the academy, Joe Tanner, and Joe taught us so much about fielding and how to field forward rather than most people when they field, they want to bring the ball into their body. But he showed us how to go through the ball, and made it so much easier to field short hops and things like that. So great instructors we had.
You know, and you were the greatest second baseman of your era, bar none. But you revolutionized the game when it turned to turf.
Oh, I love turf. I loved it. Yeah, I mean, I loved it because it showed every skill that you had.
Yes.
And so when you go to Detroit where they had the high grass and they wet it down in front of home plate so the ball wouldn't move.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to tell Lou Whitaker, I said, man, I run by ball, stop, and come back here. So when you guys get to Kansas City, you guys better be on your toes.
Yeah.
So we go 76, 7 and 8. Finally get the series in 80.
Yes.
And man, a close.
What a feeling.
Oh, that had to be great. And
then and I'm trying to remember who was the MVP of that 80 ALCS when Mr. Frank White.
Yeah, actually, I was the very first ACLS MVP.
Yeah,
that was the first year. First year they ever did it.
Yep.
And so that was fun, man. I tell you. When they tap me on the shoulder, say, hey, "You're the MVP," I'm like, "You got to be nuts." So, I mean, it was fun. I mean, I had a great time. I think I hit 545 that series, and then I hit early in Game 3. I hit a home run off of Tommy John to put us up.
Yes.
So it was kind of nice to be a piece of that whole puzzle. And I think the good thing I really enjoyed was when you're a kid, you're playing in the backyard in the alley, and you want to hit a home run in the All-Star game. You want to hit a home run in the World Series, and it was 3-2 count, boom, boom. So I had a chance to do all those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was standing room only crowd in Houston in '86 in the All-Star game. And so hit a home run. It was kind of cool.
And then you're back in 85 and you win it.
Yeah, I mean, I felt good about '85 even more after when Dick Hauser called me in the office and he says, "I want you to bat fourth."
Clean up. I was just going to ask you.
And
I
told Dick, I said, "Come on, Dick, you got to be kidding me." I said, George ought to be doing this, and because I thought my logic was good because I said, okay, if George is batting fourth and I'm batting third, then when it came to 2-0, 3-1, I'm gonna get a good pitch to hit.
You're gonna get pitch.
And I was a good fastball hitter.
Yep.
But if I'm batting behind George, then
you may not get
they're going to walk George to pitch to me, but I won't have that same protection. But George decided he didn't want to move, and so I said, okay. So I told Dick, I said, I'll bat fourth. I said, if I do well, they'll write about it, and I said, if I don't, they'll say I should have been there in the first place. So I just said, just don't be any different, just be yourself, and so I was able to lead the series in RBI. And hit a home run in Game 3, which was a critical game for us.
Big game. Game 3 was huge. Let's talk about the defense. You mentioned it earlier. The eight Gold Gloves, man.
Defense.
Well, and that Bill has told me that George even said that, man, all those batting titles, that Gold Glove means more to me than anything else.
Oh, George is so funny.
Is he full of shit?
Well, no, but there were times when balls would be hit, and they'll say it's a hit, and he'll look at me, and I just do like this. I just put my hand on my face. But yeah, winning the Gold Glove was pretty awesome. I mean, when I started in '77, I mean, I really didn't have a clue how good a defensive player I was going to be. But I went through that series. I think I made 7 errors that year, and I hit 245. So I started off slow as a hitter, and people let me know about it. And so, I mean, I haven't done anything easy in my life. I mean, Cookie retired,
Yeah.
And everybody's mad because you took his job. I said, I didn't take his job. I mean, I'd come around off first base at people throwing quarters at me and all kinds of stuff. And I said, this is crazy. I'm from this town. But it was just one of those things that you come to grips with. You said, well, you got to prove to the people that you can play. And so I made my mind up that I was gonna show them I could play this game. And like I said, I won my first Gold Glove and 6 in a row, and it was like pretty cool after that.
I hate to even bring this up, but I'm gonna because it pisses me off.
That's
still.
why we're here. No,
But you should have had 9. How in the hell did Harold Reynolds get you? That I mean, what the hell was? I still pisses me off.
Well, that's one. That's only thing I can say is, I mean, I would have been the first second baseman to win 9. And Bill Mazeroski was always in the top of people's minds, and I think, and the decision makers are your coaches and managers at that time, and so I just felt like they probably just felt like they didn't want me to be that guy because I
Didn't
played,
you only make like 2 or 3 errors that year?
I made 4 errors.
And weren't they all throwing
in
errors?
150 games?
Yeah.
And I made they were Bill. That was really kind of cool because it was 4 errors.
Yeah.
To 4 different first basemen.
What? Oh no.
Yeah.
Wow.
First base is always a place where they experimented. You have a tall guy, short guy. It was one of those things. But Big John was by far, and he and Balboni were by far my 2 most favorite first basemen because, John say just throw it anywhere but high. And so he could pick the ball out of the dirt. Yeah. So on double plays, you don't have time to look. You just want to make sure you got it in the vicinity, and you feel confident guys could scoop balls in the dirt and stuff like that. So those 2 guys were really fun to play next to.
Well, and when you play in that era, when you do what you have done, one of the really great aspects of working with you on the book was talking to other people. Reggie Jackson. Frank White has saved as many runs as I drove in. John Sherholtz, GM, who's now in the Hall of Fame. Frank White is the best second baseman of his generation or any generation. He was the best, period. Brett Saberhagen, my man Smooth, helped me win a lot of games. If the ball was hit to the right side of the infield, it was an out. And Dan Quisenberry. We called him Hoover because he swept up everything that was hit to him. And, Buck O'Neill said, I've seen everybody from Jackie Robinson to the modern era, and nobody's better than Frank. Ted Williams, who I interviewed long before we wrote the book, and he was on the Old Timers Committee, but he said, when I'm involved with the Hall of Fame, I'm going to do everything I can to get Frank White in there. And, I mean, that's coming from the guy that was, I think, the greatest hitter in the history of baseball. Definitely. But he appreciated the defensive aspects.
Well, I mean, I always wondered, I think I'm the only 8-time Gold Glover not in the Hall of Fame. But I think that in order for you to get to that next level, especially when you're not hitting 300 and 320 and all that kind of stuff, is that your team, first of all, have to get behind you, and they've got to promote you, and they got to help you fight the battle, and that didn't happen, and I think so. Just sort of over time, it just sort of slides off to the side, but I think the way I justify myself is that I grew up here, I played my whole career here. And I don't think I could be any more popular here than if I was in the Hall of Fame or not in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
I think I think the beauty of it is when players around the league that you played against, when people hear your name, then they give you the credit you deserve. Yeah. And they say, "Oh, I know that guy. That was a great player." I mean, to me, when your peers recognize you, it's really important because I think had I not played in my hometown, it might have made it felt a little different, but I think going to New York, and I love going east because that's where the game was. Yeah. And so playing in New York, playing with Willie Randolph, I used to tell Willie, I said, man, Willie would always say, I trade you a Gold Glove for one of your rings, and I said, I trade a Gold Glove for one of your rings. So so you play these games, and I used to really challenge other second basemen when I went to play. I mean, Luke Whitaker and Gantner and all the guys. I'd say, hey, we're here for 3 days. I'm out play you guys for 3 days. Yep. So that kept me in the mindset. And so it was good. It was just good sportsmanship, and so they knew that the groundskeepers were really, really cool, because when you have gold gloves, the groundskeeper is going to ask you, well, what about how do you like my field? You know, how do you like? We go to Texas. Texas. They always be a little hard in the summertime, and I just said wet it down. Yeah. And so if you go back and look at old. From the old stadium in Texas. And you'll see a dark spot at second base because I know over time it's going to dry out. But then again, I knew too it was a fast field. Yeah. And I knew that it would make the ball stay down. Wow. So I mean, it was just things that groundskeepers love to have a Gold Glover compliment them on their field. They loved it. And so I mean, you go to some parks like Cleveland, and you look at the infield cut. And you always walk the field before a series, and so if the dirt and the grass are not evenly matched, then you would tell the groundkeeper. Then they push the dirt up, because you don't want to be playing infield in and you got a lip on the grass. Yeah. So, but the fields who don't get it done, so when you play infield, you stand on top of the lip and take it out of play. So it was just those little things that you always had to look at. Or you go to Chicago. And you would take balls and you roll them down the third baseline to see if they're going to stay true or they're going to go this way. Because I used to bunt, and so Chicago always had a little thing to make the ball just go foul. And so you always got to test the fields and things like that, and play the playing surfaces and things like that. But turf was home. I mean, turf was that's where it was.
Nice. I wanted to ask you, because you said something about a couple of things. Team didn't back you, and then I liked it out east. Mm-hmm. One day, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I'm watching a game, and I see you coaching first base for the Red Sox.
Oh, man.
And I'm thinking, hey, Frank, what the hell are you doing? How'd that what was that all about?
You go where the offers are.
Oh, man, I get it, bro. I get it.
After the 90 season, after the 90 season, the Royals really. I mean, when I left here, it wasn't really on a good note. I just
we heard that, but we didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, why is everything got to be controversy? Yeah. And so
little did you know. Huh?
Yeah, my last year was like, oh man, when they really feel like they want you out, then they do a lot of little things to kind of create that little drama. And so when I left here, I sit out the next year. And then Lou Gorman used to be the general manager for the Royals. He was the general manager for the Red Sox. And so he called me and said, I want you to come and coach for the Red Sox. And he was out for me in AAA. And I said, no, Lou, I want to go to rookie ball. Because rookie ball is where you do it all. You got to deal with the kids who leave home for the first time. You got to deal with all this Dear John stuff, that people. And a lot of it was disappointing, because you talk to kids and the girlfriend sent them a Dear John letter, and you think you got them talked in the stand. The next day you come out, they're gone, and you see them 5 years later, they're not with that person. So it was heartbreaking, really. But you got to do the administrative stuff, hotel stuff, travel, buses. You do it all. And then after that season, then I went to the big leagues and coached for 3 years for the Red Sox, which was, man, it was a great experience. I mean, to go to a ballpark every day that it's going to be a sellout. The people understood the game, and I mean, we won the division in '95, which was a ton of fun. But it was. We thought we'd be the first one to break the Red Sox curse, but that didn't work. But I mean, I really enjoyed it, and then after. The '96 season, then I came back here. And I think it was at the All-Star break when they made that switch in managers, and they asked me to coach first base, and I said that's great,
And then you ended up managing the Double-A team.
Yeah,
you had some guys there.
Yeah, that was interesting too, because I actually wanted to manage the Major League team.
Well, I was about to ask you that.
And so they kept saying, "Well, you're too valuable to us in the front office. You get the spill." Yeah. And then I said, "Well, I'm gonna test this theory." So I said, when the Double-A job came open, I went into the to the general manager, assistant general manager. I said, I want to apply for the Double-A job. They thought that was the greatest thing in the world.
Really?
so I said, well, I'll give it 5 years down there. So after I think I was there after my third season. Then they start switching managers, and then I said, well, why not? I mean, I had some good teams down there. I thought we played well.
Did you have Alex and Billy?
Well, at my last year in 06, I had Alex, Billy. I had all of our first-round draft choices.
Yeah.
I said D. Brown, Labansky, Mitch Meyer. So I had Granke, Hoshaver.
Wow.
Had all those guys. And so Billy Butler, Alex Gordon, had them all.
Well, I would have told me if I were you, well, the next step is
Well,
waiting on me.
I thought that was the next step. And then when they made the switch, that's when Dayton Moore and everybody came in. And so I did interview once with Dayton for a job when they hired Trey Hillman. Mm-hmm. And then I got called back for a second interview. And then they said, well, we want to bring in somebody that don't know the players, which I didn't agree with. But you do a lot of things happen during those times. You know, you got guys who are saying, even some of your former teammates, they have their favorite people too. Mm-hmm. And so they were saying, well, why would you hire an icon? Then you're going to have to fire an icon and that type of thing. Mm-hmm. And so my logic was, if I'm an icon and you care so much about that, then give me the players I need. You don't have to worry about it.
Right.
But so that didn't happen. So anyway, the second interview didn't go well, and so the next day, Dayton flew to Japan and hired Trey Hillman.
Yes. But that's another story. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of pitfalls out there.
Yeah. What was your relationship with, like, moving forward, like with Mr. Glass and even now Mr. Sherman?
I thought David Glass and I had a real good relationship. I mean, I had a job where, when he first came in, I did community relations. Then I went to, I was assistant to the general manager. Mm-hmm. I did a lot of office work. And so when I went to TV, and I did the pre and post game shows, and I did an analyst job. So it was okay. I mean, I thought actually. I mean, before he passed away, I went down to Bentonville, had dinner with he and his wife once. But I think John Sherman, I don't know well. Mm-hmm. I know he's a philanthropist. I know he loves the city and he loves baseball. I mean, he was a part owner of the Guardians when I came in, but in terms of just, I think he's a good guy. I mean, I don't have any bad things to say about him at all.
And then you went over to the T-Bones and the Monarchs.
Well,
and my son Nick. So Nick's mom and I are out there all the time. The boys are out there. We always see you out there at the Monarchs, and of course, Mark Brandmeier owns the team now. And then Chris Brown and those guys.
Well, Chris called me after the Royals. My breakup with the Royals was kind of it was more of a combination of pride and how you're going to be treated kind of thing. Yeah. You're doing the broadcast, but that's when Split got sick, and so I was more or less standing in for Split, but my main job was community relations, and then David Glass' son, Dan Glass, he said, "Well, we want to cut your salary," and I said, "Well, how much are we talking?" He says, 2/3, and I said, "Well, nobody gets their salary cut 2/3." And I said, well, let me ask you this. Okay, if you cut my salary 2/3, are you going to let me be the full-time analyst? And he said, no. I said, well, this is not going to work. And so then I went home and told my wife. I was shaving that morning, and it was December 3rd. I'll never forget the date. and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I said, you know what? You deserve better. Yeah. And I said, and I told my wife, I said, we might have to sell everything we got, but I can't work for these people anymore. Yeah. And it was all about respect and sacrifice, and everything they've asked me to do, I did. I thought I did it well, and I carried myself professionally, and not a bad letter, not a bad report, nothing. And then they said, well, you're too negative on the broadcast. And I said, that can't be true, because if you're negative on a broadcast, I'm going to tell you, the first person you're going to hear from is a player's wife. Yep. And a player's parents, and player's girlfriend. You're going to hear, and the player himself. So that never happened. I mean, all these little excuses, and I said, you know what, it's time to move. So then Chris Brown said, hey, why don't you come out here and mess with us for a while? And I thought that's fun, stayed in the game and working with kids, helping them get better. So I did it for 14 years. It was, I think last year was the first year I didn't do it.
Yeah,
and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really did.
That's great. So, was it that, or what was the impetus for you to move into politics? I mean, did you have that in your mind growing up, or as you got older? I mean, how did that all come about?
I think we all are involved in some kind of politics in some kind of way. We probably just don't, recognize it that way. But I grew up in the city, and in 1968, when I was a senior in high school, Martin Luther King was assassinated, and they wouldn't let us out of school for the service, and there was a riot in KC. Things got burned down on the east side of Kansas City, and so all these years later, nothing had changed. And I said, so why isn't the money that's supposed to be going to the east side, to redevelop the east side, isn't going to the east side? So I don't know where you can find out. You got to get into it. And there was an open seat on the legislature,
Jackson County Legislature,
and so had a few people encourage me to do it, and then that's how I got into it. Now, the first year being on the legislature was fun because you were learning, and you had I was an at-large candidate, so I had all of Jackson County. But I think the next year when Mike Sanders ran into trouble, then I was shocked as anyone when the legislature voted me to be the interim county executive.
You weren't expecting that.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
And so, but I
that
knew
would have been what, 16, 17,
that was in 16.
16.
But I knew there was a lot of problems, and I knew that I was inheriting a lot of problems, and so I really felt like, because you had a lot of veteran guys on the legislature at that time. Yeah. And so I figured.
Well, wasn't Fred Arbanis still on the?
Well, Fred had just left, and Fred
left.
was there 42 years.
Yeah.
And then you had some 36 years. And
Yeah.
It was a lot of veterans, and
Yeah.
so I figured, why aren't these guys taking this job? And so I said, well, I figured maybe they put you there to soak up all the mess that everybody else created.
Yeah.
And so I put together a real strong team around me, and I made my chief of staff an attorney, my chief administrative officer was an attorney, and then we had the county attorneys. I just insulated myself, and I just told them, your job is to teach me what I need to know, but don't let me sign nothing I shouldn't sign.
Right.
And so we just sort of built it that way, and it just worked. And so that's how I got into it. But it was more out of curiosity and just wanting to make a difference. And I never have considered myself a politician. I really was more of a businessman in that job than a politician. But I think that politicians sometimes have hard time doing the right thing.
And then you got reelected twice.
Yeah.
So it was like, hey, Frank's doing a great job. Yeah.
I really think I did do a great job. I mean, going through COVID was stressful. Yeah. But I think that we saved a lot of lives and made a lot of tough decisions, and the decisions I made were based on public health and not on politics and mask mandates and all that type of stuff that we were sued by numerous times by the Attorney General. But when they next they dropped the cases and then move on to something else. But I think that it was trying times, but I think that we came through with flying colors in terms of identifying some of the disparities in our community and where the need was, and creating programs that are going to help the most vulnerable people. And University Health is our safety net hospital. We were very responsible for them, and being able to fund money for them to reconfigure the hospital to make it safer for patients coming in. But the governor during that time wouldn't fund the cities in Jackson County. He would only fund the counties. But he didn't have to fund us because we were over 500,000, so we could go right to the U.S. Treasury to get our funding. But the cities were supposed to petition the governor for their funding, which he refused to do. And so I funded all the cities in Jackson County, all the school districts, all the first responders, all the health departments. So these are the things that I look back on and say, well, we did good.
All right, so politics did come into play. Some of the legislators wrote a letter to Andrew Bailey, the Missouri Attorney General, and they pointed out 4 things. I'm just going to read this and have you address it.
Okay.
The first complaint said that you failed to devote yourself full time to the office of the county executive, and then they went on to say they could. I'm going to read quotes because I'm not going to paraphrase this. Okay. When you can ask week after week to Frank's chief of staff, where is the county executive? And the answer is he doesn't know. We might have a problem. During weekly legislative meetings since May of 24, the legislators claim that the chief of staff has been unable to account for Mr. White's whereabouts. And then the final thing they say is, and again, I'm just going to read it as is, that Frank's role as a baseball coach for the Monarchs hinders his ability to fulfill his duties as a county executive.
Hogwash. Bullshit.
Bullshit, right?
That's my bullshit. But anyway, I think a lot of the things that came out of the mouths of Legislator Barker and Sean Smith, it's all bullshit. I think it's all misleading the people. My job is 24/7. Yeah. But I never went to the Monarchs game before 5 o'clock. And my phone's always in my pocket, and people can always reach me. They basically were just trying to create this scenario that I didn't go to work. So they would go and take a picture of my parking spot at 7 o'clock at night and say, "Where's Frank White?" So it just
Why?
Jealousy. It's my popularity, my name recognition.
But you're a Kansas City guy. Wasn't like they brought you in from New York or something.
Well, these are people that I've known a while. I mean, I've known Manny Barker for years. When he was working with Congressman Cleveland, I've known all those people for.
Do you have a problem with them?
Deron McGee, the chair. Yeah. My wife and I co-chaired turkey drives on Thanksgiving for him. But when they got into office, they came in as a block of 5. They voted in a block of 5, but they don't understand county business. I mean, they look at the finances of the county as monopoly money, and what people don't realize is that the legislature can put things on the ballot without my approval. I mean, I can veto it, but if they override the veto, it goes on the ballot. Just so their first year in office, they try to put a use tax on the ballot. I said, you don't want to put a use tax on the ballot in a reassessment year. But they said, we don't need you. That's okay, fine.
Well, you don't have a vote, do you?
No, I don't have a vote. And
but you can veto. But I can veto. Yeah.
And so I vetoed it, and they overrode the veto. They put it on the ballot, and it fell miserably. And that was $1.5 million out of the taxpayers' coffers. Even the Chiefs vote. I said, we don't want to do that in April because it would cost us $1 million to put it on the ballot. But they overrode it, and that cost us $1 million. So we normally, when we get health care increases, we would pay 50% for the employees. Mm-hmm. They came in and said, we're paying 100%. So they cost us an additional $1.4 million. So it's like they don't understand how to be fiscal. And so, but in terms of there was another complaint about me not going to meetings.
Yeah.
And if you look at how we're structured like the state, mm-hmm. where the governor doesn't go to legislative meetings unless he has some curiosity, he wants to walk down there or whatever. And we're set up the same way. So since I don't have a vote in the meetings, they're not my meetings. They're their meetings.
But you knew what was going on, right?
Yeah, we meet every Monday at noon, and we go over the agenda. I know everything that's on the agenda. I watch it on my computer in my office. And I just don't want to go in and go through the BS they go. I mean, they weren't passing anything. They were holding everything. This is like a BS session between Legislator Barker and Sean Smith. I really feel bad for the people who fell for the recall because they thought they were going to get tax refunds and all this other stuff that they're not going to get. And they elected a non-elected guy to run the county, which is totally crazy. But that's where we are.
Well, a year ago, the legislature passed the budget, if I'm not mistaken, just a few hours before December 31st deadline, mm-hmm. that, if I'm staying correct, would have made some pretty big changes to legal and budget departments, some other things. You vetoed that bill January the 9th.
You've got to.
So what was that? What was that?
Well, we give the legislature a balanced budget November 15th. and they keep the budget.
You gave them the budget.
We have to present them a budget.
That's per law, correct?
That's per law.
Yeah.
And that's per state statute. We have to present them a balanced budget November 15th.
Okay.
We did that. They play with it. They do what they got to do with it. They usually get it back to us around the middle of December. And so the law states that once the county executive gets the budget back, he has 10 days to look at it.
Okay.
And that's when you decide, do you need to line item veto anything, or do you need to veto the whole entire budget?
Which is allowed. You're allowed to.
You're allowed to do that. Veto. Yes. Okay. And so what they tried to do was go to the last day,
which they did,
and then they say, well, he won't have time. I said, it doesn't matter when you give it to me. I still have 10 days to look at it.
Okay.
And so then what they did, they said, then the next week they passed their own budget that they made changes on. So that's why they had to veto the entire budget. But if you look at the budget, they had moved the finance department underneath the legislature, which is by statute you can't do, by county code you can't do. They cut salaries in my office. They cut salaries in the county counselor's office, in HR, collections, assessment, which they can't. These are all charter departments. They can't defund these departments. So they can't fire people. So they basically were trying to take over the whole dang on thing. But that's why I vetoed the entire budget. Then they sued us on the budget, which I said, this has been this way since 1973. There's no tricks. I mean, but they just want power. They want power.
They said the veto was illegal.
Yeah,
I mean,
no veto is illegal.
That's what they claim.
All they got to do is override it.
So what happens then? You get into a stalemate, right? I mean, does anything get funded until it's finalized?
That was another issue. We figured out how to still pay our people.
Yeah,
and that really irritated them then. And then they just made it even worse. And the year before they did the same thing, and we showed them that we could still pay our people, and use unfilled positions and things like that. But everybody gets paid. But what they didn't realize was that they were causing people to leave the county, because people realized that the legislature can write my job out of the budget. Then why should I go through this every year? So good people were leaving. Our director of HR left. Director of finance left. So people were just leaving, and so that's part of the disruption that was going on down there.
Then, of course, the property tax stuff, which you got canonized for, and we're gonna give you the opportunity to address this. Correct me if I'm wrong. The core issue with the Jackson County's this battle was not that really the assessments didn't align with the market. It all had to do with. I've heard this a lot. I've heard you say it, and I've heard the STC attorney say following the law. And the physical inspections, the conducting physical inspections of properties before raising assessments higher than 15%. What is the law?
The law, according to STC, they change it all the time. I mean, I went to the assessors conference, and we listened to the STC speak. We asked them, what is a physical inspection? What constitutes a physical inspection? They couldn't answer the question. And so they said, well, we want the physical inspection and the evaluation be done at the same time, which if people working, you can't do it at the same time. So they would always put mandates down where in times when was just inconvenient to anything we were trying to do. So that's why you had the lawsuits. That's why you had the appeals process, because we were saying, okay, give us something we can work with, because the assessor can't arbitrarily do things on her own. She has to do what the state mandates her to do. And so what she does is they say, we want it at 90%. We got to bring all values in at 90%. You guys are out of compliance, and when we're out of compliance, the state gives us $3 per parcel. So that's over $1 million to the county when we're out of compliance. So they said, but she got the 90%. And then when they figured out, oh, that's gonna really hurt some people, or wake some people up, then they came back and dropped it again. And so it keeps going back and forth. But the bottom line is, once they give you their mandate, she puts together a plan based on that mandate. That plan goes back to the STC for their approval. Then it comes back to the legislature for final approval. So the legislature approved her plan. But then when they saw where people were getting upset, then all of a sudden they said, "Oh, this is crazy." But they don't understand how it works, but it works mainly if it starts at the state level. The state mandates what we do.
So we're talking about, what, 300,000 parcels, something like that?
300,000.
And the STC, did they require to bring those 300,000 parcels to market? Is that because they'd been undervalued?
We're undervalued, yes.
So they told you, bring them up to market.
Yes, and she did.
And then Gail McCann Beatty said that her department was not properly staffed to handle the 21,000 appeals. Is that true?
No, the appeals are handled by the Board of Equalization.
Right. Okay.
So the Board of Equalization is there to equalize values. So you get your valuations, and then you file an appeal. Then you take your paperwork and you go in front of the Board of Equalization. Some people take tax attorneys.
Yeah.
And their job is to equalize values. And I think that when you look at the 54,000 that filed the last time, 15,000 never even showed. And if you look at St. Louis, if you got 300,000 parcels and you got 10% appeals, that's acceptable. So now you just got to get people to get the move. But in Kansas City, with people like Sean Smith and Manny Barker, they keep telling people, "Oh, these are wrong. This is not legal," and then people forget to file their appeal, and so now they're behind the 8 ball. And so we once they go through because their bill is not actually set until September, late September, when cities set their levies. So we say, just go through the process. It should work out. Just go through the process. But when you have elected officials who are trying to muddy the water, then you just keep people confused. And I think that's the bottom line, is people just got confused. They thought it was illegal. They was filing under appeals and under protests, a lot of things like that. But all it does is, and then everything eventually, if they're not happy, they go to STC. And STC, they don't have a strong enough back room to hear all these cases. So they backlog down there too.
Well, then it really got out of hand a couple of years ago because the average property value increased about, well, I know mine was 33 or 30, about 30% was about the average. And which, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that meant that the county was required by law to offer interior inspections. Is that correct?
But most people refuse those.
They refuse them. So that's again, we're talking about a couple 100,000 properties. I did it. Our house is on the edge of Independence, Blue Springs. It's in Independence, and was built in 1992. So 32 years old at the time, and we were gonna do windows. Yes, I hadn't done them yet, which I have done since. Had the original furnace, and I thought, what the hell? So a couple people came out, and I said, you want to see the furnace? Sure. And it's got the date of it. Doing it 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks later, denied. And I thought, all right, whatever. So I let it go. But I guess there were a lot of people that went up a lot. So I guess where I'm going with this is, what happened? Why did it get to that? I mean, we keep hearing this 15%, and then we hear you say the STC said they keep changing it, and then Gail Beatty says, "I'm just doing what I'm told." Right. So what the F happened?
Well, she's doing what she was told. She was told to get property values at 90% of market, and that's what she did.
That's what the STC told her.
That was her mandate.
And then,
if you look at the last, I won't say the last 2 years, but maybe last 3 years.
Yeah. When
you had a lot of people coming in buying up a lot of homes in Jackson County.
Right.
And they were buying them all up because they were undervalued.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and when you're talking about 15%, which is what Preston Smith was talking about, but when you cap property values, then you got a person who has a home of worth $50,000 paying the same tax as a person that has $1 million home, and so it's not equitable, and it's a regressive tax at that point. So what we did was in 2025, because STC was acting so squirrely, we said, well, we're just going to cap all residential at 25%, at 15% this year, and so then when the new interim guy came in, he said we're going to cap commercial at 15%, but he can't do that without STC approval.
Have they given that approval yet?
He hasn't. I haven't seen any proof of it. But then what happens there with the commercial is that you're going to hurt the school districts. You're going to hurt all the taxing jurisdictions. And the school districts are going to get hurt the most is Kansas City, Missouri, because they can't raise a levy. They don't have a levy to raise. By Constitution, they stay the same. So if you cap everything at 15%, they're going to lose a lot of money. And so that's why it's important that you try to get as fair as you can and as equitable as you can on property tax. So it's
what did you want? I mean, what you were told? I mean, what did you want to do going into as far as the assessment was concerned? If your plan, what was it that you wanted to do? Did you want to do 15%, or you had to do what the STC said and said, you guys got to raise this way up?
Well,
you want
to hit their mark if you could.
Okay.
Because that's what you're mandated to do.
So that's what you were mandated to do.
Now, if they say we want you to come in at 90%, you say we're going to come in at 66% or 60%.
They're going to come back at you.
They're going to come back at you. And
so your mandate was 90%.
So it was our mandate from the state tax commission.
And then when people started getting bills and saying, "Oh my God, what the hell's going on here?"
Then all I tried to do is get people to file an appeal. I said, don't waste any time, file an appeal. And a lot of the people who filed appeal, they were happy after they went through the appeal process.
But that's when it all became your fault per people on the legislature, and they basically blamed you.
Well, they always said heavy is the head that wears the crown. So you're gonna, even though you don't have any real responsibility there, you still are top. If you look at I think it's Chapter 20 county codes. The county executive, my only responsibility to property tax is to say, okay, let's say if somebody came in and said, this is the wrong address, I can fix that. Or if somebody came in and says, oh, I was double taxed, I can fix that. So it's mostly clerical type stuff. But valuations of property is not deemed an error. So I can't change that. You have to go through the process to change that.
Mm-hmm. There was a lady that went to one of your town hall meetings actually right before the recall, September 15th. I don't know if you met her name. She runs a business in Lee Summit called Lee Summit Equestrian, and and she is not a resident of Jackson County, but she owns this business in Lee Summit, and so she really had no say so as far as the recall vote or anything like that. But she got a 700% assessment increase, and her question was first of all, why? And second of all, why would anybody want to move to Jackson County now? What do you say to somebody like that?
Well, I mean, first of all, you got to verify the increase to make sure it was 700%. I mean, that's an awful big jump, 700%.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So if it's that egregious, then I would think that if she went through the appeals process, then that would be taken care of right away.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand the people that are out collecting this data, they are not assessment. They're not appraisers. They're just regular people like us. Mm-hmm. They're taking videos. They're taking measurements. They want to know how many rooms in your house, how many bathrooms, that type of stuff. Then they take it down to the assessor where you have 5 residential supervisors. Those are the people that actually put it together. So
it's Gail and her staff.
Yes.
That put that together. Okay, so we're going to leave that at that. Let's talk about the last thing. The stadium sales tax issue. So, I mean, hopefully this is the last time we have to talk about this.
Maybe.
Maybe. You fought that $1.1 billion to help finance that ballpark in the Crossroads, which that whole plan just seemed like something that was just so quickly put together, and nobody wanted. It seemed like nobody was behind going to the Crossroads, and so you vetoed the ordinance to get that measure on the ballot, which they overrode, and it got on in April. Mm-hmm. Jackson County voters ended up agreeing with you.
Well, I think the biggest thing is everybody loves the Royals and everybody loves the Chiefs, and everybody realizes that we would be better with them than without them. The Chiefs and Royals have the best lease in sports, and they paid zero. The county pays $54 million a year. It was $6 million in return. The city pays $2 million in a year. They get from the state. They get $18 million in return. The state spends $3 million, and they get $38 million in return. So it's not an equitable lease for Jackson County. So I was able to negotiate the insurance back. They had $3.5 million they were taking out of our park levy. I got that back. But it was pretty evident that the teams didn't want to sign a lease. And
John Sherman came out and said that he wasn't going to stay.
And when I see the article in the paper where it said they've been working with Kansas since 2023, and then when you look at this, in the negotiations that we're in with both teams, all the Chiefs ever talked about was renovating Arrowhead.
I got that survey, online survey about the renovation.
And all they thought about was but they did say they wanted a new practice facility, a new training facility. And my question was, where do you intend to put it? And my answer back was, we're just being strategic. The Royals, in all of our negotiations with them, they were negotiating for East Village. That's where they wanted to go. Mm-hmm. This after they played with Clay County for a while, and then they came back to us. So we were in a meeting in February. You know how you go to these negotiation meetings, then you say, well, let's take a 10-minute break and discuss what we've been talking about. We came back from that meeting. Both teams said, we're done talking. And that's when John Sherman said, well, we got a deal. We got an offer from the mayor of Kansas City that we can't refuse. And so the mayor was in that meeting. And I said, well, what's this can't refuse offer? So that's when they decided they were going to move to Crossroads. This was day before Valentine's Day. Yeah. Early voting had already started, and they dropped this thing on these people right just like that. I said, "You guys are gonna have issues," and so the big plan was, you remember the talk about putting a cap over 670?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I think what happened there was they didn't want two entertainment districts downtown. They wanted to keep Power and Light where it was, which I understood wasn't doing as well. Yeah. And so if you move the stadium to the Crossroads and you put the cap over 670, now you're connecting T-Mobile, Power and Light, and the stadiums. That's what that was all about. But when it was a $75 million grant that was supposed to come through, didn't come through. And then it just sort of died at that point. So it's really, you got the mayor of Kansas City who's running around talking all about, he invoking my name and all this stuff about Frank White this, Frank White that. But he was the big problem. I mean, he should have never even been in negotiations because their investment was so small and they got so much back. But the big issue with that whole stadium issue was that the legislature voted this thing on the ballot without a signed lease agreement in place. Right. That's what I was against. And people say, well, he was against the tax. That's not what that. My job is to get a lease for the taxpayers. So I couldn't get these teams to settle down enough to say, we're going to sign a lease like we did in 2006. But then they realized that, oh, wow, we can get this on the ballot without the county executive. So they went to Duran McGee and went to Manny Arbarca. Duran wrote the ballot language. Manny did all the work to get his constituent, his colleagues on board to vote for it. I think it's myself, Legislator Marshall, and Legislator Lauer. We were the only three that said this is not a good deal. Because you're talking about putting a tax on a ballot that, if it passes, would have cost the taxpayers of Jackson County $2 billion over 40 years without an agreement in place. That's what I was vetoing.
For a stadium that at that point was almost 100 years old.
Mm-hmm. So the whole thing is, it makes good talk for these elected officials. Oh, he was against the tax. No, I wasn't against the tax. We already had the tax. It was about a lease agreement. That's what I wanted. Mm-hmm. I wanted a lease agreement that when people go to the polls, they know what they'd be voting on. The early voting had already started when we didn't have a lease, when that was going on. So these elected officials who are very careless about taxpayer dollars, they're more concerned about suites and hanging out with the hobnobbing with the ownership, free tickets to the games. Yeah. That's what they were dealing with. But my job as the head of the county was to make sure that people knew exactly what they were voting on. And you couldn't do that unless you had a signed lease in place. And then that's what I was against. And that's what the other two legislators were against. So, surprising to me, our mayor, chamber leaders, downtown council leaders, union leaders, political organizations in Kansas City. They all thought, well, you should vote for this. I said, guys, that's not good business. Why should I vote for something to go on the ballot that's going to hurt our taxpayers in the long run without an agreement in place? I said, I've been around ownerships a long time. If you don't get what you want, you're never going to get it. So they basically just you had so many pieces of people meddling into the whole thing. I mean, even before the election, you had a fake lease signing between the teams, the Sports Authority, and Manny Barca. Everything was to throw the people off. I mean, there were letters written by ownership saying, if you don't pass this tax, we're not going to stay. If you don't pass this tax, there won't be another vote. I mean, all this stuff is out there, but everybody needs a villain. And so 10 years of work, running a county is more than property tax. I mean, property tax is going to come every 2 years whether you want it or not. So people just have to learn how to deal with it, but they just made it more political this time. But, I mean, just like right now, a lot of people don't have their tax bills, their real estate tax bills.
Yeah.
And when a guy goes in and fires your assessor right before billing, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
I mean, you have an interim guy who's not an elected official, but he's appeasing the base, but you also have to run the business. I mean, you could do this later. You don't have to go in and fire people right now because you're right in the middle of billing season. You can't because the collections and assessment work together. And so it's I'm not surprised they're late, but I mean, it's when you're telling people to estimate your own taxes, that's hard. How do you know you're right?
So what would you like to have seen? What was if you would have gone back and made another proposal, or your proposal would have gone through to the Royals and the Chiefs, but with the Royals, you were for to continuing the whatever it is, the 1/8 cent sales tax, but there had to be a lease in place.
3/8 cents.
3/8. There had to be a lease in place. That was really what you wanted. Is to, okay.
I wanted a more equitable agreement between the county and the teams.
Yeah.
Right at like I said earlier, we were spending $54 million and we were getting $6 million in return.
Right.
So when you look at this, the lease with Kansas, not the lease, but the term sheet, then the $3 billion is a lot out of anybody's budget. Yeah. The county doesn't have $3 billion that they can give these teams. And then when we talked to the Chiefs, there was no discussion of a new stadium, a new dome stadium, or anything like that. So you would think that once they got the offer from Kansas, they go back to the state and say, "Well, can you guys match this? You want to match that?" But no, they were ready to go. So I believe that ownership, when they want to leave, they can leave anytime they want.
Yeah.
And so they've got 5 years that they can still have to play here. But at the same time, you want to be. I sent the Chiefs an offer. I said, okay, when you look at the bond issue that was passed in '67, it wasn't going to pass. But then they added Hospital Hill to the ballot, and that's how Hospital Hill got transformed, because all you had was General Hospital at that time.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let's think about a proposal where even if we had to go to a half cent, where we do a third for the teams, and third for county infrastructure and safety, and a third for university health. And that was my last proposal to the Chiefs, and they spit on it. So they don't want to share. I mean, there's no community benefit to having these teams because they want 100%. And if you look at the term sheet, a lot of the things that are in the term sheet they already have in Jackson County. They have $8 million in rent they pay that goes into an RMMO fund that's run by the Sports Authority that's supposed to keep the stadium in first class condition. Yeah. But they also can use that money for Chief cheerleader uniforms and all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they got total control of the complex. They get all the parking, whether it's concerts or games. They get all the ticket prices. The county shares in none of that. So that's why when you look at that lease they have in Kansas, with a dome stadium, they'll have events forever. but the state or the city will never share in that. Because
Were you surprised that when you saw Clark Hunt and Mark Donovan and the Governor Kelly? Were you surprised that that thing happened?
No, because I really felt like they didn't want to sign a lease.
Yeah.
I think they were looking for the best deal. I think that my red flag was when the state called a special session and said, okay, we're going to chip money into the hat. And then the Chiefs the very next minute called Kansas and said, please extend your deadline. Mm-hmm. So I felt then it was they were just playing Missouri against Kansas at that point. And whoever's going to give them the best deal, that's what they were going to go. And plus they wanted to get a deal where they didn't have to go to a vote of the people. And that's what they did.
Do you think this is just trying to predict the future, but based on everything that you've been involved with in negotiations with them, what do you think the Royals are going to do? Are they going to stay in Kansas City? Are they going to go to North Kansas City? Are they going to Johnson County? What do you think is going to happen?
It's hard to say. When teams aren't talking, it's hard to say. But everybody wants the next best thing. I mean, these new stadiums that are being built, they have entertainment districts around them. They have condos. They have office buildings.
And that's what John Sherman keeps saying.
And this is what these teams. This is what these teams want. It's not that Kauffman Stadium is falling down or. Like in Mark Donovan's comment that one time, well, they got a bad batch of concrete. I said, come on now. So I mean, it's.
You poured concrete at the other stadium.
Same. I even asked the Sports Authority to investigate, but nothing came back.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like I say, it's more of a want than a need. But I think that these teams want to be like older stadiums, like Kansas City and the Chiefs Stadium and Arrowhead. They just want to be on that next level, and I think that's what they was looking for.
You mind if I read a few things? We got 3 or 4 questions from folks online. This is from Mike Keller. Recently, Mayor Lucas was asked how he believed you would be remembered. His answer was something along the line of, he'll be remembered as a great baseball player. Would like to get Frank's reaction to that answer, maybe ask him that same question. How do you think Kansas City will remember you?
I mean, I think Kansas City should remember me for a guy that's willing to step up and do the job the right way and make the tough decisions that had to be made and got things done. Mayor Lucas is one of the most political people I know, and which way the wind blows, that's where he's going. But I took this job not because I needed a job. I took this job because I wanted to make a difference in my community, and I think I did that.
This is from Ronnie Phillips. Did you bite off more than you can chew by getting into KC politics, and do you regret it if it comes at the expense of tarnishing your legacy as a Kansas City icon?
No, I don't regret it at all, because we all do things in our lives that we think are important that means more. I mean, my legacy in baseball is my legacy in baseball. They can't change that. I mean, people can talk about legacy, and I have a legacy in the county for the things I've done there, for the infrastructure repairs I've done there, for the new health department building. I mean, there are a lot of legacy building things that I've done with the county, but everybody wants to focus on property tax, which is a natural occurrence. It's going to come every 2 years, regardless of who's in office. But no, I don't think my legacy is tarnished at all. I think that's more of a I mean, I love me. I love who I am. I love what I've done. So that's not a lot of people can do what I've done. And so I think that I beat the odds. 10 years is a long time, and I've been able to transition myself in a lot of different ways. From a player to a coach to a manager to TV to broadcasting to community relations to just anything. I've been able to. I did roofing for 6 years. So I mean, I've done a lot of things in my life. I started from a cotton field in Mississippi. So I mean, I'm not ashamed to. I'm not afraid to take on anything.
A couple more. Brian Scheibner says, I'd love to know Frank's thoughts on the Chiefs moving to Kansas and if he has any regrets about the no vote. I think you've pretty much answered
I have no
that.
regrets about it because it's a business decision. I think that how would it look if I would have said, hey, guys, put this on the ballot and we have no agreement with you guys. We'll just try to get the money and this passes and they take the money and we get a crappy agreement and people are on the hook for 40 years for something our great-grandkids will be paying for.
Yeah. Also, like Frank's thoughts on baseball today and how he thinks he would do if he played baseball today. Like, how would Frank White, the ball player from the 80s and 90s, do if he played today?
Very well.
9 Gold Gloves, maybe 10.
Well, the game is not as fundamental as it was when I played.
Yeah.
I mean, the game today is more get up to the plate, swing for the fences, strikeouts, or you get more strikeouts than base hits now, and strikeouts don't bother people. I mean, if somebody on our team struck out 100 times, they would kill them. I mean, if it was Balboni, he said that's good because that's part of what I do. Yeah. But the majority of the people that strike out 100 times, it's unacceptable. Yeah. Or if you can't hit behind a runner, if you can't bunt runners over, I mean, it's the fundamental sides of the game that made the game fun and made the game strategic. It's like playing bridge or chess, you know. But I think that's what people of my generation miss is the anticipation of the situation and what the situation calls for.
I went and watched a series. Me and a couple buddies go watch series on the East Coast just for fun. And you're in a 1-run game, and you're up, and you've got first and second and nobody out, and guys are up there just swinging away.
Yeah, because they can't.
And they didn't get the runners over and didn't tie the game. I mean, you see it all the time.
They can't bunt.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's. You don't see hit and runs a lot in the game. I mean, when we used to go in a slump, first thing we wanted to do was hit and run because it forced us to focus more on the ball and hit behind runners and get first and third situations. But the game is, the game is what it is. I mean, I think that the home runs are what people think people want to see today. But I think that the Royals play a good brand of baseball. I think they're trying to. Instill the fundamentals and play the game the right way, and they got speed, they got defense. I like their pitching, so they're a fun team to watch.
They are. Here's one: how did lessons from baseball prepare you for leadership outside the game?
Well, just playing second base for one, because second base and shortstop are two positions that you can't manage from the bench. I mean, you can tell a guy to move 2 steps this way, that way, but you have to be able to think in those positions. You have to be able to anticipate because you see every pitch that's thrown. You see the location of the pitch. You have to be able to anticipate, based on the situation, what the hitter's trying to do. Now today, I can't say that. But in my day, you knew what the situation called for. You knew what the hitter was trying to do. You knew the pitcher was trying to pitch away from that. So it was more of a strategic game. You have to know if the ball is hit back to the pitcher, who's going to cover first, who's going to cover second, who's going to go first, who's going to back. If a guy's picked off first, who's going to go first, who's going to go. I mean, there's a lot of decisions that are being made just between those two guys that you can't even fathom from the bench. And so you have to be able to anticipate and react to anything that goes out there. And so it's always like I would always say, if a man's on first base, I would say, ball to my left, I'm going to do this. Ball to my right, I'm going to do this. If it's right at me, I'm going to do this. If it's hard. So you factor all those things in.
It's that chess game
and
continually
then,
going on.
And then when the pitch is made, then your mind just gets empty, and then you react to what happens after that. So you've already pre-programmed yourself in your mind what you want to do one way or the other. I mean, it's just like turning a tough double play in a tight situation. Being on turf, you look over there, say it's a guy wearing turf shoes or wearing spikes. So if you're wearing turf shoes, you stay in longer. If you say spikes, you use another avenue of escape. But I think that is what the game is, a thinking man's game. And so when you're talking about building a team and leadership starts there. But then you manage baseball. You manage 25 players. You got to know each one of those players. You got to give each player something in their development plan every day to make them better. And when you go into politics and work, you're still managing people. And that's the hardest single thing to do in the world is manage people. But you have to understand your people. You have to know what you're expecting them to do, and you got to be able to see them get better over time. So I think this is one of those things that people say is, well, he wouldn't know anything about leadership. Leadership is so many different ways you lead. And how many people can get to follow you, how many people get to believe you. And when you're building a political organization, it's about building a strong team around you, and that can keep you focused and keep you into what's going on. And if I didn't have a strong team around me, there's no way I'd have been there 10 years. There's too much crap going on.
Yeah.
And so you have too many people trying to climb the ladder, and there's nowhere to go. I mean, Jackson County Democrats, where they got to go?
Yeah.
They go to the state reps, they term out, they come back here. a Democrat hasn't won statewide in Missouri in a long time. So they all huddle up down here, the city council, county legislature. We have 5 top positions. Got mine, the sheriff. You got Congressman Cleaver, prosecutor, and the mayor. So everybody keeps fighting for these jobs. So it's like crabs in a bucket.
Yeah.
And so, and you're not going to get rich. I mean, the legislator makes probably $38,000 a year, but I think that is similar to the state rep. So you just got this melting pot of Democrats down here with nowhere to go. Nobody can win statewide. Now with redistricting going the way it's going right now that these districts are going to extend all the way down to the Boot Hill and all the way down to the Ozarks, it's going to make it even more difficult. So I feel like I've beat the odds.
Yeah.
What would you like to say to homeowners affected by the tax assessment? If you just had, hey, here's the deal.
I think that if it's one thing, it's not one magic button you can push to say. I mean, if I had the power to say 15% in Blue Springs and 15% in Independence and 20% somewhere else, that's too much power for a county executive to have. So that's why they didn't give it to me. So it's a process, and it's a process that's got to work itself out over time. It was built over time. When I came in after 2013, it was a horrible assessment season. And so it's just been building. When elected officials keep kicking the can down the road, then sooner or later, the rubber is going to meet the road at some point. And I just happen to hit that perfect storm.
Yeah.
But it's gonna come again. If they leave these property values at 15%, it's gonna come again. And that's just how properties will increase in
They've
value.
been capped now for what, 3 years now?
No.
That's what Phil Lavoda said, right? That he wants to cap it at 15 for 3 years. So what's going to happen after that?
That'll be up to the state tax commission. Okay. He can't do that on his own.
Okay.
But you also have to understand what the repercussions are from that. So that's going to be the big problem. So even if the state tax commission say we're going to cap it at 50, they won't do it, I don't think. But if they say we're going to cap it for the next 3 years, all you're doing is delaying the inevitable.
It'll happen again.
Somebody sooner or later. The whole thing is get it fair.
Yeah.
Get it fair. And then once you get it fair, people adjust to it, then you go. But if you keep moving it back when people get upset, then you just create another problem down the road. And I think that problem is going to come down the road. So you fire your assessor, next year's a reassessment year, and you still don't have a director of assessment. So if they don't quit playing politics, the assessment has never been part of politics. She's not an elected person. She's just head of a department. And so when you go to an elected assessor, then when they passed it on the ballot, they didn't have any guidelines. I mean, I could run for assessor with no background in assessment, in appraisal, or nothing. So, and if you get an elected assessor, and if that person is really political, it only gets worse. So you need somebody there that's just going to do the job and get it right, and sooner or later it'll even itself out. But that's why, like I said earlier, that's why people came in here and bought up all these properties because they were undervalued. And I think people know when their properties are undervalued. And I've had people tell me their property was undervalued. I've had people go in and raise their values because it's been undervalued. So I mean, it's one of those things that it was kind of like mask mandates during COVID.
Yeah,
people made it more political to wear a mask or not wear a mask. And I think the same thing happened with assessment. This is the one thing that they could point to and say, this is terrible, but yet they couldn't explain why.
Yeah.
They could tell you, oh, this is bad, this is illegal, this is corruption, but they couldn't explain to people why because they don't understand why. And so the state tax commission is 3 people. 3 people appointed by the governor. Usually they're termed out senators, but they have no real estate background. I mean, we have Greg Razor, who is representative from Jackson County, but then he has to recuse himself. So it's 3 people making these decisions with a couple lawyers down there. So that's why I said, going into 2025, I said, we're gonna go with states. We're gonna go with the STC. We're gonna cap residential at 15%. Quiet the storm, because we didn't want to send all these valuations out and then have them drop another mandate in the middle of that. So
yeah, who or what do you believe was behind this whole recall thing? The driving force behind the recall, and what did you learn from it?
The driving force behind the recall was Bridget Williams, who is head of Heavy Constructors, Freedom Incorporated, which is a political organization in Kansas City, South Kansas City Progress. So you got to understand, when the Royals and Chiefs were trying to get this tax passed, a lot of people made a lot of money. This election was upwards of $10 million, and so a lot of these people got paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you have the time to pull the financial disclosure statement from that election, it'll tell you who all got paid. And so some of the same people heading this recall were the same people who got at least a couple $100,000 from the teams from the election. So all I say is follow the money, and you'll find out all you need to know. But what I learned from it,
Yeah.
I learned it was bullshit, in my opinion. I mean, because what's the end result? The end result is Sean Smith saying, "Well, we're gonna get you guys all refunds. The county sitting on all this money from 2023. We're gonna get this money back to you." We don't sit on money. We collect everybody's tax dollars. We redistribute it back out to the taxing jurisdictions, and the county keeps 7 cents of every dollar. That's how it works. So we don't just don't sit on a pot of money, because school districts need their money. They got to pay salaries. They got to do what they got to do. Fire districts, everybody need their money. Libraries. So we can't just sit on it. And that, like I said, that money gets spent. That money is spent as soon as we shoot it out. It's spent. And I think that's what the message the people weren't hearing. And so now they're saying, "Well, where's our refunds?"
Yeah.
And then the people who had already came to terms, that's a legal binding deal. They can't change that. And then Phil was talking about tax credits. How do they work? And the county budget is only $500 million a year.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about $54 million to the teams. The annual operating expense on the detention center is about $32 million. The sheriff's budget is over $10 million. The $10 million to University Health.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you can be at $100 million. Your public works budget, your parks budget, and then your regular other departmental budgets. I mean, it just said it's just not a ton of money there to operate on. If you're talking about giving tax credits of $90 million or whatever it might be, so it just doesn't work that way. And the county, we have reserves. I had amassed $70 million in reserves, but the reserves are there for a reason. The reserves are there because the county infrastructure is crumbling. I mean, we have 5 courthouses. Our juvenile courthouse needs $118 million worth of work. If you're going to do our downtown courthouse, that's $300 million. A historic courthouse in Independence is $15 million. So the strength of the county has always been their ability to bond. And your bond folks want you to keep 40% in reserve to keep your almost AAA rating.
Right.
The state mandates you keep 3% in reserve. And that should carry you 6 months in case there's a disaster or something like that. But if they spend their reserves, the county's in trouble.
Yeah.
Because you won't be able to bond and get the right rate. I mean, the bond payment on the new detention center is about $16 million a year. So I mean, so you're not working with a budget like Kansas City that's got $2.5 billion.
Yeah.
And you're not working with a state budget. So you're working with a budget that you have to be fiscally responsible. And that's what concerns me about these guys.
How did you improve Jackson County from the time you took over from Mike Sanders till September 30th? And what are you most proud
I
of?
should have brought my list. But
Hey, we can wait.
I mean, there's a lot of things.
But people, I want you to let folks know. I mean, all people are thinking about is tax assessment, the damn stadiums and whatever, but
Well, I think the one thing we did was we recognized that our health department was aging. Our health department was 1934. It had mold in the basement. It had a trailer hooked up to it in Independence. And so we were able to buy a new health department building. And it's in Lee Summit off of Ralph Powell Road. Beautiful building, beautiful location, close to University Health. It's really great. We were able to buy a new administration building because in the courthouse, we're one of the few courthouses in a city of our size where your administration is located inside the courthouse. Usually they're separate. So in that building, you have to always worry about what trial's going on. You got to worry about prisoner transfers. You got to worry about protests. There's a lot of things that goes on that people that come to work every day shouldn't have to go through.
yeah.
So the legislature before this one gave us the ability to buy a new administration building. And we had the funding to get that building ready. So the whole idea was move all the administration out of the courthouse. And we're paying leases that are pretty high. And a public defender lease is over $600,000 a year. So we'd be able to move all those people back into the courthouse, make it a judicial building, but also make the courthouse more functional. Now, on the first floor of the courthouse, where we do all of our business, you don't have public bathrooms. So people are either on the second floor or in the basement looking for bathrooms all the time. So the whole idea was we were going to finish this building. We were going to take the HR, collections, and finance off the first floor. We were going to take the jury room, which is on the third floor, which is really problematic, and move that to the first floor and put a courtroom on the first floor and make it more feasible for people to come there to do their business.
Yeah.
And we had we had what we call ground floor separation. So where the employees come in the back, that's where the prisoners also come in that way.
Yeah.
So we were going to be able to wall off that area, and so people wouldn't have to wait outside where they transfer prisoners from the vans to the court, from the courts and things like that. So all these things were in works until this legislature came in. They put a stop to all this, but we got a lot done. I think we were able to balance the budget every year. We were able to take a pension plan that was 74% funded, and now it's over 93% funded. We were able to increase our paid leave from 6 weeks to 12 weeks. We had fertility benefits added to our health care. We had a program called Our Healthy Jackson County that identified health disparities in our community. That was a program that we spent $10 million on. And that gives people access to the health care, access to preventive health care, preventive screenings. It takes care of hypertension. One of the big things that I really wanted to be a part of this was infant mortality. That's part of it. Blood glucose, STI. I mean, it just gives people a chance to go to a clinic, have real doctors there, get the answers they need to their questions, and just have some really control over their health care, which a lot of people feel like they don't have right now. We banned the box on our employment applications so that people who have felony records can get to the interview stage and get employed. Oh, man, I tell you, it's a lot. I had a program called Kids to the Park where I took kids from the urban core to eastern Jackson County to explore our beaches and our marinas, and that went really well. We have our fishing derbies. There's a lot of things that we did that I think were really, really good for the people. I don't have all my list here, but it's a lot.
Trust you.
It's a lot.
If you had anything to change over the past 10 years, what would you do and why?
Well,
Other than
change,
people that you had to deal with.
change only comes with funding. I think that we were able to do the good things that we did because of, as bad as COVID was, it also gave us the funding we needed to fix some of the things that need to be fixed. University Health Hospital and our health department and the Kansas City Health Department. So we were able to do some things like that I thought were very beneficial to the county itself. Had the current legislature allowed us to finish this building, then people would have been able to go to this building, do their business in a very, very nice setting, a bus stop right outside the building, 212 underground parking spaces. Parking wasn't the issue. Now they got to navigate downtown again. The front steps of the courthouse have been blocked up for 5 years because they wouldn't give the funding to fix them, where Kansas City's already fixed theirs. It's just they don't have infrastructure in mind. It's all about spending money.
What's the next chapter for you?
Rest.
That was a quick answer right there.
I'm done.
That's it.
I mean, I'm done. I got my life back, so I'm done.
About going to go back to the Monarchs?
No.
No, you're just done. Huh?
I'm done.
You're
I'm done.
Billy, what you got, Bill?
I think I'm going to start calling you Professor White. You've answered some questions that I never understood, and you speak in layman's terms. Mm-hmm. You're a man of the people. During my 43-year career at the Examiner and all the time that I covered you and the Royals, you never turned down an interview request. I've never seen you push a child or an adult away that wanted an autograph or a photo.
That's true.
Great representative of the team, great representative of Jackson County, and what an honor to be part of this today.
Thank you, Bill.
Frank.
Thank you guys for having me on.
You bet, Frank. Thank you, really.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it very
Thank you.
much.